Today I'm going to show you how to get that analog sound in the box. Now I've got tons of analog here and I do my mix downs exclusively out the box, but there are some very useful processors in the box that do a very good job, and today I'm going to show you some of them. So as you can see, I've got my Logic page opened up. I've got a simple drum group here. Now let me play this for you. So I've got all my drums going to one bus, and in the bus I've got a plugin. Now this plugin is called the Diamond Lift 3. Now this is created by a good friend of mine, Luca Pretolesi. In collaboration with Acoustica, they've created an amazing channel strip that I use all the time, and it really has that analog sound. Now what I've done is I've already dialed in some settings. What I'm going to do, I'm going to turn it on and off, and then I'll go through them with you. Plugging off. So as you can hear, we're getting a really punchy, warm sound from this plugin. One thing to notice is, when you look at the meters down here, is that with it on and off, it's hitting the same decimals in the meter, but it's actually sounding fatter, larger and warmer, and it's not creating more headroom. And this is the key for when using these type of plugins. You're creating a nice warm analog sound, but you're not pushing up the initial volume. So let me show you how I use this. I'm going to get this back to the default settings. So these are the default settings as it starts. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some saturation to the drums. Turn it on the saturation knob here, and I'm going to dial it in to desired. And go all the way. As you can hear, it's a very subtle type of saturation. Now this mixed with using the clipper function really brings this to life. So I'm going to turn on the clipper and I'm going to clip, and what I'm going to do is dial it until it starts clipping. So as you can see here, the clipper function is on. Now let me turn this on and off so you guys can hear. And what I want to do is I'm going to pull the volume down because I don't want the volume to trick me. I really want to hear what this plugin's doing. Really bringing those drums to life with a warm, punchy sound, and it actually feels like it's getting louder, but when we're looking at the meters, it's not. Check this out also, a couple other functions that I like to use on the drums. So here you have two EQ sections where the EQs are modelled off very famous analog unit. I'm just going to use a low shelf on this, so I'm going to flick this to the low shelf and I'm going to dial in a bit of low end information. I'll overdo it first so you can hear what's going on. So what it's doing is pushing the low end into the clipper, and it's giving a nice soft clipping on the kick drum as well, which will round the drums out even more. And check this. Now watch the meter here, we're not getting louder in volume, but it's perceived louder. This is the key when using these type of plugins. You always want to make sure you're hitting the same volume, because when you do something like this, automatically louder sounds better. And by matching the gain here, really lets you know what this plugin is doing. A really punchy, warm sound coming out of a digital plugin that really does sound analog. Now this has got a couple more features. Now this can add some width to your drums. Now check this. Dial it back a bit. Let's check this out. fantastic on the drum bass, and I actually use this channel strip on a lot of other instruments. Sounds analog, sounds fantastic, sounds very musical, and what I love about this plugin is you can push it super hard. It never sounds too distorted, it always sounds very musical. So that is my first plugin I'm showing you today. The next thing I'm going to show you is some the next thing I'm going to show you is some processing on bass. Now here I've got a bass loop here, and what I've done, I've got processing on it. I've got the HG2 black box, a fantastic saturation unit from Plugin Alliance. I've got the UAD Manly, and then I've got a simple kickstart, Nicky Romero kickstart, that is just side chaining the information I'm adding on. Now check this, I'm going to press play, I'm going to remove the processing I've done, and then I'm going to talk you through it like before. Removed. Really listen to the low end, how it warms up. Very nice warm analog sound. Now let's get into this and I'll talk you through this. So the first plugin I'm using is saturation. I love to use saturation on basses, and especially this plugin here, it has a very warm and musical sound. Now let me just turn this on and off so you can hear what it's doing. So what you can hear, it's really working on the low mids, and it's adding some really nice second and third harmonics. Now I'm going to go to B and I'm going to dial this in for you. Now as you can see here, you've got high, flat, low. Now this is the way the plugin reacts to. So I'm going to go to low and it's going to react more to the low end. Then I'm going to dial in the saturation. Some pentode. You really hear it there, right? And check it. Even going all the way still sounds very musical. Sound overly saturated and distorted like some of the other saturation tools on the market. And a touch of triode. And as with any changes I make on a plugin, I'm going to reduce the output so I can really hear what it's doing. Still a bit loud, so we really want to hear what this saturation is doing. It's about the same level. Bit too quiet now. That's it there. So as you can hear, really warming up the sound in a very musical way, and that's what I love about the black box. Okay, next we're going to go on to an EQ, and this is probably one of my favorite EQs out there. I've actually got the hardware version because I love it so much. Now this is the UAD Manly Massive Passive. This is probably arguably one of the most famous EQs in the world. It sounds stunning and it looks stunning, and UAD have done a great job in emulating it. By owning both units, I can say that the actual unit sounds better, but the plug-in version does react similar in the way the curves are. Now check this out. All I'm doing in here is I've got the low end set to 100 Hertz, so I'm dialing 100 Hertz, and I'm doing a few dB bump in the low end. I'll overdo it so you can hear what it's doing. Done in a very musical way, and that's another reason why I love this. And all the plugins I've showed you, you can push them really to the max and they don't get overly distorted and sound digital. They react in a very analog way. Now The beauty of this is, if you see here, what I've done is I've changed the shelf from a typical low shelf, which is like this. Let me just dial it in. So this is essentially what we're doing, 100 Hertz. When I go here, essentially what this is doing is pulling a little dip down. So it's allowing us to boost some nice low end information, but also pulling a bit of low information down to prevent doubling. Now check this, the difference. It really lets the kick come through. Now this is essentially the Pultec curve, which is another very famous EQ that I like to talk about, but I've spoke a lot about in previous videos. Now finally, I've just got on here an automatic sidechain at the Nicky Romero kickstart, just to sidechain some of the low information to get it out of the way of the kick. And let's hear the combination of all of them together. And let's also remove what's going on here in the drums and hear how it's sounding. I'm just going to get the mixer up here so I can turn everything on and off. From there to here. Again. Some fantastic processes there, and you can really hear our sounds come to life in a very musical analog way. I'd highly recommend checking these plugins out, and I guarantee they're going to add some real analog sound to your workflow. Thanks for checking this out, and I'll see you guys soon.